Do you want to be more productive during your day? Do you want to feel like you've accomplished more at the end of the day? There's one thing, there's one skill, there's one strategy, there's one concept that almost all of us try to master that actually can cut your productivity by up to 40%. And that's exactly what I'm going to be sharing with you today here in just a few minutes. So stick around for that. Good morning. Welcome to Coffee with Dr. Scott. Great to be with you here this morning. Hopefully your Wednesday morning's off to a great start. I know mine is. As most of you know who have watched me for a while, that the schedule has changed a little bit from 7 a.m. show, which I really kind of miss doing, just in the fact that I liked doing it that early. But I'm getting into this new routine pretty well. The 9:30 really does allow me some more time with the kids and to get some things prepared, and I'm really, really enjoying it. This week, workouts have been a little bit better. The kids' workouts have been a little bit better. I've been a little bit more patient with them, which is good. So even as they screw around during practice, which some of you dads might know, it just kind of irks you a little bit, I've been a little more relaxed because I didn't have this in that time frame. So my Wednesday morning's off to a great start. I feel more productive, which is what we're talking about today. The only weird thing to me really, besides just the habit of doing the show at 7 a.m., really is the coffee consumption. Usually, like I said, I'm done drinking coffee by now. And this is my first cup. It's weird, but I'm kind of liking that as well. I've mentioned a few times, like I used to have my first cup at 7 a.m. with you all, and then I usually have a second cup right around this time. But now that yesterday, and I'm pretty sure today, since I already had breakfast, I'm just going to have a cup. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. A lot of you extra super coffee lovers out there might think that's a bad thing, but I think overall it's a good thing for me just to have my one cup, get my good fats in here, make me really happy. All right, so Chuck, Matthew, Todd, Kenneth, Molly Ann, and Taryn all joining me. Thanks for stopping by here. Since we're talking about productivity this morning, I would love to know what is one good habit that you would love to master. So one productivity habit that, it can be either way. It can be something that you're really, really bad at, and you're like, I really want to master that, or something you're good at, it's just something you want to focus on. Mine really would be something we're going to kind of talk about today, would be batching tasks. When it comes to productivity, if I have one issue, I like to think I'm really, really good at it. And even the thing I'm going to talk about, batching tasks, I feel like I'm better than most at it. But I do have instances where I'll be working on work stuff and I'll have a thought about, the basketball team or whatever, and I'll go write up a practice program, or I'll think about the kids' nutrition, so I'll go plan a couple meals out, or vice versa. Sometimes I'll do that and I'll have a work thing. So to some degree, I do get a little distracted in those places, but for the most part, I batch my tasks. Put chunks of time where I work on one thing. Like I said, occasionally I just get that, that's a great idea, and I'll go write it up on the whiteboard and follow up on that, and then I'll lose where I was. So if there's one thing I would love to master, it would be that batching tasks, even better than I am at it right now. So again, for productivity, what's one skill that you would love to master? Share that in the comments down below. If this is your first time watching the show, excuse me, I was reading a comment there and processing it. See, I got distracted. There's the batching task that we're talking about. If this is your first time watching the show, go ahead and let me know what state you're watching from. If you haven't seen Coffee with Dr. Scott before, just like to know where my viewers are coming in from. And speaking of states, if you are in, let me just say this area up here, anything east of Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, and all that up there, just to make it simple. All of that northeast stuff is the region that I have broken up into for my tour. If you're in any of those areas, you are in luck, because I'm going to be in your area very, very soon on tour. You're the next stop on my tour. Now, if you're not familiar with what I mean by that, no, I'm not a touring musician. You don't have to hear me sing, which you should be very, very happy about. I tour all across the country meeting with chiropractors in their practices, and I do initial practice evaluations. Initial practice evaluation, what the heck is that, right? Well, in a nutshell, I come into your office, I get a tour of your facility, I meet with you, we sit down, I ask questions, you ask questions, I go over everything about your practice, your stats, your marketing, your billing, your procedures, your staff, everything. Then I use that information to formulate a step-by-step action plan that will get your practice growing to the level that you want it to grow to in 4 to 6 months typically. And yes, you heard that right. It's not 4 years, not 6 years, it's 4 to 6 months. It's pretty cool, and it's guaranteed. It's money back, and I'll buy you a steak dinner if you aren't happy with your results afterwards. So Just to let you know, I've done over 600 of these practice valuations for different doctors in 46 different states, and I've never been asked for a refund, and I've never had to buy a steak. So I'm pretty confident in it, and if you're just doing it to take me up on the free steak dinner, you're probably going to lose out on that one. You're probably going to love the plan anyway. So if you're in one of those states that I showed you up there, click that link that's coming up in the comments here to schedule a quick coffee chat with me and find out more about it. I do coffee chats right after the show with docs who are interested in having me come out to evaluate their practice. All right, so I see Chuck's coming in from Northern California. Great, Chuck. Thanks for stopping by. So, Chuck, you want to be more productive, right? All of you watching, you want to be more productive, right? I mean, doesn't everybody? And in today's culture, too often we think that productivity means that we have to be masters at multitasking. You see people who are busy. They're doing a lot of things, and you think they're productive. But if you really look at what they've accomplished at the end of the day, just because they're busy does not mean that they're productive. And again, too many people think that multitasking is a skill that they should acquire. I think I saw that. Yeah, look at you, Kenneth, saying that you want to be a multitasking master. That's the key to being more productive, right? To be able to do more things at once. Wrong. Actually, studies show that when we're multitasking, we're up to 40% less productive. I know it's shocking. You think you're doing two things at once, so you're knocking stuff out. So it's shocking to us, but it's true. Because when we're multitasking and we're trying to focus on several things at once, we aren't really focusing on anything. The old saying that I love to come back to is if you work on two things at once, you do neither of them well. When we're constantly forcing our brains to shift back and forth from one thing to the next, it takes our brains a while to catch up and start focusing on that next task. Now, I mentioned earlier that batching tasks was one thing I would love to master. And I don't, it's a little different from what I'm talking about here. It's not like I'm trying to do two things at once. I'm having a conversation with somebody and I'm, doing an email, working on a project. I'm talking about when I shift, I completely shift. If I'm working on a project and I have a thought about my basketball team, I run over there and I do that thing. So I'm still batching tasks. I broke away from the time I was supposed to be spending doing this. What I'm talking about here is that complete distraction, doing two or three things at once and doing none of them well. So the key to being more productive is not multitasking at all. That actually kills your productivity. The key to being more productive is learning how to focus on one thing at a time, and just one thing, and working on that one thing until it's done, and then switching to the next thing and working on that one thing till it's done. And the study would show that somebody who worked on a bunch of different stuff at once, although they look busy, and there's a lot of action going on, at the end of the day, they don't get much accomplished. They don't finish any of those things because they're distracted amongst all those things. Whereas the person who works on one thing and then one more thing and then one thing, at the end of the day, gets more stuff done. But they also typically seem more calm doing it, which is big to me. Anybody knows my philosophy is there in both practice and life, is that it makes things simpler. So you work, I don't want to say easier. It's simpler and it's more effective. You don't feel stressed the whole time because you're not multitasking and you get more done. And that's a double bonus for you. Obviously, in the world we live in, it takes some practice to get that way because we're so accustomed to trying to accomplish everything at once, especially with these darn things. We have this phone that pings all the time. We're trying to work on something or we're talking to somebody, we're having dinner or we're walking through the airport. If you're walking through the airport, please put your phone in your pocket. If you have to text somebody, it's just like driving. Pull over to the side of the airport, please, because you're always in front of me and you always stop or you wander into somebody. Anyways, point being, we really have to make a concentrated effort to focus on one thing at a time. I was talking to a potential client the other day and mentioning that she just mentioned that it was great that I responded so quickly to something she sent to me. And I told her, well, you're one of the very only ones. Like I have notifications on for one thing, and that's for clients and potential clients. Other than that, I have 0 notifications on my phone. I have to actually open it up and look for stuff if I want to do something so that I'm not pinged all day long. So I'm not distracted and I'm not working on a project and I'm like, oh, and I do something else. I come back to that project because, again, it takes your brain time to come back to that project. There was a neat study. If my good buddy Meg is watching, Meg turned me on to it. She showed it to me on YouTube. It was just a neat little example of this. The guy basically had you write your name, not in cursive because we don't teach that anymore. Just print your name. So print all the letters of your name. And then underneath each letter, write the number of each letter. So for me, it'd be under S, I'd put 1. Under C, I'd put 2. Under O, I'd put 3. And how many letters do you have in your name? So then he asks you to write your name and then write all the numbers. So Scott Dorrity, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, whatever I got up to. And then he asked you to try to switch between tasks. So now write the first letter of your name and then the number, second letter of your name, then the number. So your S1, C2, and you timed them both. And it was about this 40% time frame that we're talking about. Just the fact that your brain is trying to look at two different things at once, it took you time when you came back up your name to figure out where you were. And it took about 40% longer to write those things out than it did if you just wrote your name and your numbers. So again, it's just an example for the most part, but it was very accurate and very, very cool. So again, we got to get to a place where if you're doing paperwork, if you're doing your notes as a chiropractor, don't stop to check your phone notifications until you're done. And I hear so many docs complaining about their notes, but then I see them doing their notes, and they're not doing their notes. They're doing their notes with staff coming in and bothering them, the phone ringing, checking their email while they're doing it, and they never get their notes done. They're complaining about how long notes take, but notes wouldn't take that long if they just did their notes, if they stopped multitasking. If you're going through email, don't switch between tabs on your computer to work on other things until you've completed what you started. And for me, and again, this is another productivity tip, make sure that means inbox 0. So if you open up your email, don't shut it down until your email is empty, until you've processed all that. Get it done, get it out of the way, then move on to the next thing. Now, it'll probably take a lot of effort at first to do this. But if you'll work at it, you'll start to see your productivity levels go up in no time. Work on that today. And then jump back on the show tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Central Daylight Time. Let me know how it went. Let me know the difference you saw and felt and how productive you were. Now, and again, remember I'm talking to a lot of chiropractors here. That also especially goes for what you do best and what helps you to produce, which is taking care of patients. Too often I see doctors multitasking with patients. They'll see a patient, they'll go check their email, they'll go see another patient. They'll see their patient, they'll pull their phone out of their pocket and do something else. They'll go up front and talk to somebody. You got to stop that as well. When it's patient time, it needs to be patient time. And if you're focused and you're cluster booking your schedule, you're going to be a lot more productive. You're going to see a lot more people, help a lot more people, and obviously in the end run, make more money, make more profit. So try it out today. Come back on tomorrow morning, 9:30. Tell me how you felt. And remember, if you're in one of those states, I'm actually going to name them just because they're there. So we got Indiana, we got Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, Connecticut, Rhode Island, I'm cheating, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, any of those states. Click that link in the comments down below. Let's chat about how I can help you grow your practice quickly and very, very affordably. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning for another episode of Coffee with Dr. Scott.